Hey guys, good morning. It is May 21st, 2022, and we are in chapter 30, verse 25 through chapter 30, verse 36. I know that's a lot. It seems it's 11 verses pretty much, but it all goes together. And sometimes I do a couple verses, sometimes I do a big chunk, because when I do the big chunks, it all corresponds, and we need that in one message. We can't break it apart. So I'm going to start in chapter 25. Chapter 25. I'm going to start in verse 25, and I'm going to read to 36. So there's a subtitle to these verses, and it's Jacob's wealth increases. And it says, soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, please release me so I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and my children, for I have earned them by serving you, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you. Please listen to me, Laban replied. I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I will pay it. Jacob replied, you know how hard I have worked for you, and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased immensely. The Lord has blessed you through everything I have done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family? What wage do you want? Laban asked again. Jacob replied, do not give me anything. Just do one thing, and I will continue to tend and watch over your flock. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that have speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wage. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you'll see that I have been honest. If you find in my flock any goat without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen them from you. All right, Laban replied. It will be as you say. But that very day Laban went out and removed all the male goats that were speckled, that were streaked and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted or had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3-day journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Okay, this seems really confusing. Why? Why not get money? Why not, he's done this work, and Laban is more than willing to pay him for it, and he's sitting there and asking for sheep and goats. And not only sheep and goats, but sheep and goats that have spots and black sheep and all this stuff. And that seems a little confusing. Jacob is honest and says he wants to leave Laban and he wants to provide for his own family. Now, we would sit here in 2022 and say, well, the only way to provide for your family is to have money. And even in this time, that is what happens. But another way to provide for your family and to guarantee that there will be money in the future, because remember, if somebody gave you $100 and you spent that $100, yeah, you'll have the things that you bought from that money, but then that money will be gone. Jacob is saying, give me something that will keep producing money. And back then, the more sheep you had, the more animals you had, the more money essentially you had, because animals are food. so he could cook. Sorry, my nose is itchy. And I don't know if you can hear that. I'm gonna break this up for a second. Those are my cats, so I apologize. I'm gonna try to speak loudly so you can hear me over them. But when we look at this, we need to remember that back then, there was no supermarkets. There was no, food banks or anything like that. So when they had the animals, it was for meat. They could sell the meat. They could sell the wool of the sheep. They could sell a lot of things, and the animals would keep producing babies. They would keep producing offspring. So if the animals keep producing offspring, they keep producing ways of making money and food. So Jacob is looking at the long term and saying, okay, you can give me wages in money form, and that would be wonderful, but I need a way to long term provide for my family. And that's what we see here, is Jacob actually doing a deal with Laban that is way more expensive on Laban's part than just him giving him money. Because he's saying, okay, give me all the animals that have spots and have, stripes, and the black sheep, and give me all of those so that I can then keep producing animals and keep producing this stuff and keep the money flowing. We see that in 2022 also. But we see that in a different light. I mean, there are farmers. There are, and I'm not diminishing that. I think farmers are really important, and I think that is the only way we eat. But there's other ways of making money. There's other things that we do that can make money that was not around at this time. We could write books. I'm in the process of writing a book right now. We can sell clothing. We could do, and that was a thing back then. But we can do all these things to keep the money flowing. We see that with Jacob. And sometimes we have to look at the long term versus looking at the short term, and God shows us that. Throughout the entire Bible, there is a long term plan. They don't know it. Jacob has no idea what the long term plan is, but there is a long term plan of salvation. And that long term plan is Jesus Christ. Jesus comes thousands of years after Jacob. And Jesus comes as the long term plan, dies and resurrects for our salvation. He beats sin and death, and then he tells us, go make disciples. So continue this long-term plan, because I'm coming back. When I come back, heaven and earth will be perfect again, but I need my people. Go, make disciples. Continue this long-term plan. And we can see that in our lives. Sometimes we want something right off the bat. Something that is short term, something that may last a little while, but eventually it's all going to be gone. But when we look at God and say, God, okay, you have a plan, and this plan may be a long-term plan versus my short-term mindset, we need to trust that He's in control of these plans. He is in control of the things that we need. And that's hard. It's hard when we want something or we feel like we just need to deal with it and get it over with and continue on. And sometimes God is like, no, we need to look at the long-term picture. We need to look at the long-term plan. So here's my question to you. Where is your long-term plan with God? What is it that God is trying to show you that's going to last a long time? And you may not ever see the full results of the long-term plan, because Jacob doesn't, Abraham doesn't, Isaac doesn't. Even Jacob's sons don't see the long-term plan results completely. But where is it that God is telling you we need a long-term plan here? I hope today you see Jesus in all you do. And I hope today you see God's promise all around you. And I hope you have a wonderful day.